Foxhole and content creation has always had a shady relationship ever since I started this channel literally 3 years ago to this day. Even though I started playing Foxhole as a Warden loyalist, my early videos were almost exclusively Colonial focused, only occasionally switching to the Wardens before the creation of the Gremlins regiment. Recently though, there's been a debate about why creators like myself choose to play on the Colonial side over the Wardens. Even though I now switch factions each war and don't consider myself a loyalist for either faction, there are creators who remain loyal to Green Man no matter what. So in this video, I'll explain some of the reasons why creators choose Colonials over Warden, and at the end, I'll share my view on why I tend to lean Kali. But before we get to the why, we need to first look at the unique culture that both factions have in Foxhole. To start us off, let's look at the Colonial faction's culture. And for anyone new to Foxhole or the channel, this will give you a glimpse into what you may expect if you play for the Colonials or Wardens. Keep in mind, I'm going to be doing my best to be as objective and fair as possible, but I'll also be drawing from my own personal experience from playing on both factions. The Colonial faction is often considered the more relaxed faction in Foxhole. While Kalis still organize and operate within coalitions, have internal fights over resource fields, and consistent civil wars like the Warden faction, the faction itself doesn't adhere to strict unwritten rules outside of keeping resource fields public and don't take from private facilities. Keep in mind though, these unwritten rules are shared between the Wardens and Colonials alike. What sets Colonials apart from their culture is that they tend to embrace the yeet mentality. While some veteran Colonial regiments would cringe at seeing a line of tanks go balls deep against an overwhelming tank line, there are plenty of Colonials, both regiments and solos, who don't really care about maintaining cohesion or playing the meta. The Colonials will take armored cars, base variant tanks, and even flatbeds carrying soldiers with sticky grenades and do suicide charges against the enemy. Most of the time this ends with everyone dying, but you do have instances where the gamble pays off and the Kali monkey brain overpowers the Warden's cohesion. This mentality of yeeting tanks and infantry stems from the faction's cheaper to produce tanks and equipment. But not only that, the Colonial faction generally has a greater focus on doing public logistics when compared to the Wardens. Now the Wardens do have regiments like FMAT and OSU that commit themselves to supplying public logistics, but overall, Kalis tend to share crates of ammo, weapons, and even tanks due to the fact that just about everything is much cheaper to mass produce. And not only that, you have randoms and solo players, as well as members of other regiments, that are always willing and eager to share the logistics and drive it up to the front line. One final difference for the culture in the Colonial faction is this mentality that game design choices from the developers are made almost exclusively in favor for the Wardens. I think this mentality reached a flashpoint back when Moydog was heavily playing the game, but it's still often brought up in World Chat. An example of this would be the power difference that Wardens have on sea compared to the Colonials. Because of this, you'll often hear players say that the Kalis are the NPC faction, and that the Wardens get to have the more powerful toys to play with. Maybe in a future video I'll talk about the power differences between both factions and share the strengths both sides have, but that covers some of the high-level cultural differences on the Kali side. Now let's take a look at the culture on the Warden faction. The Wardens in Foxhole are often considered the faction best for beginners. This is due to the stronger tanks and more organized structure that the faction exhibits. As a noob on the front line, it's easy to get directions from fellow players in order to help make a difference for your faction. But the main reason why I believe the Warden faction is considered the best for beginners is its high population of veteran players. Wardens tend to hold more of the veteran player base in Foxhole, meaning it's easier for new players to learn how to play effectively from those veteran players. Most regiments have multiple veteran players who've played Foxhole for years and can teach members every part of the game from infantry combat to meta base building, logistics, arty, and naval combat. Because of this, I've seen firsthand that lower rank players on the Warden side tend to know their shit a bit better than lower ranks on the Colonial side. Another cultural difference on the Warden side is how logistics is performed. I've got to say, whenever I go Warden, almost no one is doing public logi outside of the major regiments that dedicate their time to logistics gameplay. On the Colonial side, you'll oftentimes see solo players or just individuals pitching in and delivering public logi to the front line. Just as an example, on the Warden side, I was helping push into Sableport during the week, and we ran out of ammunition, RPGs, and medical equipment. There were logi posts being made, but nobody was doing public logi from King's Cage to help keep the offensive alive. I ended up doing a couple logi runs just to take a break from the fighting, and after completing the runs and going back to the fight, there were more people asking for logi and no one taking initiative to do those deliveries. Now, when regiments and coalitions do have operations actively happening in a hex, logistics is constantly flowing and pushes can be sustained until those supplies run dry. This makes it appear like logistics is only truly shared or delivered during major offensives, and not during the lulls in the week when regiments are planning their next operation. The last cultural difference I've seen on the Warden faction is their superior ability to stay organized. No matter if it's defending a hex or pushing into one, Wardens are almost methodical with the way that they can maintain cohesion and push or defend against the Collies. While Collies have this element of chaos during their pushes and defenses, Wardens really emphasize tactics to a level that's inspiring to see. One example that recently happened during War 127 was the push into the Heartlands. Seeing everyone quickly digging defenses and establishing a defensive line before pushing in and making their presence known, while simultaneously getting their armor and artillery ready to blow up the first line of Colonial defenses, was insane to see. But not only that, Wardens make use of everything at their disposal and will always seek out the best of the best for their operations. If 150mm is teched, they'll be using it constantly against the Collies. And if you want to fuel up your vehicle with gas, guess what? You won't have to worry about using disgusting diesel, because the mad lads on the Warden faction are going to mass deliver petrol from the back line. So that covers the cultural differences for both factions at a high level. There's definitely more differences that can be touched on, but at the risk of making this video way too long, I'm going to leave it at that. If there are other cultural differences that you think should have been included, make sure to mention those down in the comment section below. Now let's look at why content creators tend to choose Colonials and why I personally tend to lean Collie over Wardens. For a lot of content creators that randomly started on the Colonial faction, they've had a chance to learn the game and make friends from that single faction. It's really no different than many loyalists who randomly pick Warden and love those people on that faction. Ultimately, when things are good and you feel comfortable with that faction, there's really no reason to shake things up and change factions. But in terms of why content creators may choose Collies over Wardens from the get-go, that question is a lot more nuanced and difficult to answer. Every creator has their own unique reason why they choose to remain loyal to one faction over the other. I think at one point it was often the case that creators would main the Warden faction over the Collies. You look at folks like Moydog, Creepy Banana, Robert Loves Games, Blue Laminate, Cronus when he first started WLL, and Pudsey, and all of these guys started or remained Warden loyalists. And I think the reason why so many creators chose the Warden faction a few years back was because that was the norm. Think about it, when you watched a YouTube video about Foxhole 3 or 4 years ago, or wanted to watch a Foxhole stream on Twitch, most of the time you'd be watching from the Warden's point of view. A majority of the creators were Warden players, and they pushed out videos and streams showcasing their battles on the Warden faction. This put a huge emphasis on the Warden faction for new players to Foxhole to join or favor the Warden faction because their favorite creator was on that side. But take a minute and look back at that list that I just shared earlier. Out of all of those, only 2 of these content creators still consistently play Foxhole, Robert and Blue Laminate. And not only that, those 2 guys now switch between both factions. They're no longer considered loyalists, at least in my eyes. Pair that with creators like myself, Alex Chamberlain, Helping Hans, Zagu, and Deserted Nox, it would now appear that the pendulum has heavily shifted in favor of the Colonials. So to the point of why content creators choose Collies over Wardens, the answer in my opinion is that a majority of the content creators who played on the Warden faction exclusively are no longer making content or are no longer exclusive to the Warden faction itself. These same creators like Chamberlain, Hans, and Zagu have been playing Foxhole for years and haven't given up. They may take breaks, but they eventually come back and continue supporting the Colonial faction, whether it's because they like the aesthetic more, they started on that faction and it's more convenient for them, or because they have long-standing friendships with the players on the Colonial faction. But there are a few reasons why I personally lean Collie over Warden. Even though I started Foxhole playing Wardens and consider myself a Warden loyalist, there were certain behaviors and opinions I noticed on the Warden side that pushed me towards the Collies. One major reason why I tended to lean towards the Colonials was their openness towards content creators, making videos or streaming the game. When I was a Warden, I'd constantly see messages saying creators are killing the game or having a negative impact on Foxhole. The main point of grief was that creators would show intel in videos or streams, and that pissed off the die-hard player base on the Warden faction. I've also seen a few Warden players straight up tell people who are creators not to join the faction, but I don't think Wardens as a whole share that view. Seeing other players agree with that sentiment was my first reason to give Colonials a try, but the next reason would solidify my reason for staying Collie for as long as I did. I met some of the most fun and amazing players on the Colonial faction. The gremlins that have joined over the years and many who've stuck with me today are the reason why I remained Colonial for so long. But not only that, the regiments we worked with or fought alongside made it extremely hard to want to leave. And I've mentioned it already, but I think it is truly the strongest reason why we choose certain sides and remain loyal to them. It's ultimately the people that we interact with and enjoy playing with that make us want to stay. Regiments like the 113th Mudboars, 420th, Para, and countless more have players that are hilarious and fun to play this game with. And the whole point of me making videos and content for Foxhole is to share those moments with all of you. To share in the laughs and also cringe at the crash outs. But that reasoning is also why I choose to switch between both factions. I can't show all the fun moments in Foxhole if I only stay loyal to one faction. And honestly, both sides have fun LARPing and memeing. I'd be doing a disservice if I chose to ignore one just because I was loyal to the other. But those are just my thoughts on why I tend to lean Colonial over Warden. In the end, I still switch factions every war, and I have fun playing with you all. Even though I've seen more hostility towards creators on the Warden side, it's not going to impact me joining the Blueberries and fighting alongside you. But what do you guys think? Are more creators choosing Colonials over Wardens from the get-go, or are long-standing Warden creators slowly fading away? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. And while you're at it, if you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like and subscribe for more Foxhole-related content. Take care, you guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.
I'ma start off the rip, ride that boy dick till I fart on the tip. Riding his boat, I'm in charge of this ship. Dick in the balls, landing hard on his tits. I just had sex with this one guy. He told me he was a fun guy. He said, when I hear from the back in my fucking kawaii. I cut through his guts like my dick a machete. I told him to come for round 2 and he ready. He jumped up right then, I could tell he was